All right, everybody. Thank you for joining. I got to tell you, I'm looking really excited to for this thing to finally kick off. It's been several years now, and a lot of things have changed. So I just wanted to have a quick Q&A session to answer some questions, and hopefully, if you see somebody asking these same questions in Discord, you'll be able to provide a quick update, or at least point them to the recording that we're making. So if you have any questions, go ahead and pop them into the Q&A text channel up there. And with that, I think we're ready to get started. I do want to make one announcement, and that is that Van Zan has stepped into the role of S-Checker/Treasurer for the Ducal Court. This means that we will have 4 members of the Ducal Court when the game launches. Myself, Van Zan, Calum, and Lewis. So if you find yourself not knowing what to do, you can ask any of us, and we will provide some guidance. We also have 3 positions that are still currently open, the Admiral position, the Steward of Trade, and the Chamberlain. Now, the Admiral and the Steward of Trade can be filled at any time. I'm kind of holding back on the Chamberlain for the moment, but I'll be looking to fill that position in a month or 2. With that, let's go ahead and get started with the questions. So the first question by Jonathan is, where do we go to get info on what to do, where to go in the first days of launch, November 15th, 16th, and 17th. So the actual launch day for open beta testing will be the 17th, unless you've purchased a package. If you purchase a package, then it's either 6, 12, or 24 hours before the 17th. So the 24-hour package is supposed to start 1 p.m. Pacific time on the 16th. Anything before then is just the ability to reserve your name. As far as where to do, we have a thread up on the forums that will walk you through all that. I don't have the plans completely posted yet. It's one of the things I'm working on this weekend. We have, when you first log onto the forums, you should see some notices posted at the top of the forums. Those you can close down as you read through them. The last one says, "Life is Feudal has announced the launch schedule. See this thread for details." If you click on this thread, it'll take you, or that link, it'll take you to the thread where it has the schedule, and we'll be posting the tasks and what the plan is. I can tell you, I don't know if you, hold on a second. That was actually a voice attack for Star Citizen I picked up with William Shatner's voice on there. Anyhow. So the first thing we have to do within that early access period is that we cannot drop a monument or a personal claim. So what we're going to focus on is skill building and terraforming to get the place leveled out for our base. We are going to be going to the same place we were on the European server, which is the island in Cluster 6. Now, some skills, when you first start off in the game, you're going to go to the newbie island. And when you log onto that game, over on the left-hand side of your vision, you'll see like a purple light going up into the sky. If you go to that light, there'll be a little statue that you can click on, and it'll take you to the MMO itself. When you go to the MMO, the only items that you'll be able to take with you are the starting stuff that you first came to the game with, which is your outfit, a torch, and one meal. So if you go out into the newbie island and you harvest some stuff, which you can do if you get away from that little starting village thing, you will be able to acquire items and skill up. Now, the items you acquire will not come over with you, but your skills that you get will, or at least they have so far. So it is feasible that if you're doing something like the whole Nature's Lore line, you can just do that on the newbie island itself. You don't necessarily have to come over to the MMO main and work on your skills. There are some advantages to doing that, especially if you're trying to do some forestry stuff, because there'll be a lot more trees over there for you to mess around with. You won't have to worry about being attacked, I don't think. But if you're just going down the artisan line, which is a terraforming, I'd encourage you to come over to the MMO right away so you can help us flatten out that spot. As far as the spot itself goes, for those who started off at the on the European server when we did the Wave 1 launch, we had a height of 68 and a massive amount of terraforming to do. That's changed now. We're actually going to go much higher, so there's not going to be as much terraforming. So if you're worried about getting carpal tunnel from clicking buttons so much, you don't have to worry about that. I see. So the next question we had was from Spherius. With the early access, how is that going to affect the initial plan? Are we planning to group up for the trip down to the island? So the garrison was talking about having some escorts to get us from the newbie city down to the island. I still think that's a great idea. It'll be up to Lewis to get that organized, though. The plan is for the garrison to head down to our location and have some huts set aside so they can just respawn right there to help protect folks when they're working on building up a city. The plan is also to have crafters, instead of coming down to the island where we're setting up base, to go to a different island where they can build a hut and drop a personal claim. And that way, if they get killed, they won't have to run as far back. I'll have more details about that in the thread on the forums, though. All right, so Zach was asking, not sure if this is the right time or place for this, but there was a crafting roster posted a while back in the Artisan channel. Is that only for dedicated crafters, or do you want garrison members to put their plans on there as well? If not, what are the plans for the garrison the first few days? So you would have to follow up with Lewis on that, on what his plans are for the garrison for the first few days and anytime they're out. There's nothing within the Wessex structure that says that you can preventing you from being a part of the garrison and also part of the crafting houses. It really is going to come down to how much time you have to play, though. I know Lewis is going to have some specific requirements for being in the garrison, and if you can fill those goals and still do the crafting bit, that's probably going to be okay. I just don't know what those time requirements are. You really need to follow up with Lewis first on that. Lucas asked, will we see or meet His Majesty King Manus? You absolutely will. He told me that his schedule frees up in December, so he'll be able to log on and play somewhat during then. For those who don't know, His Majesty is a acupuncturist as well as has his own dojo, so his time is pretty busy. You will see him pop on the Discord, though, because he can now run Discord on his phone and kind of keep up with what's going on. He will also have his character in the game, and because of the way that Life is Feudal organizes guilds and guild permissions and setting up alliances and stuff, both His Grace Brando and myself will be able to do those things also. So there might be some times you actually see his character in the game, but he's not in the game, but he is planning on playing as much as he can. So Jonathan, and actually there was another question earlier about our first priority about getting smelting and crafting to 90 blacksmith. So that's actually a carpentry skill now. So we need to get someone that carpentry skill to 90. And I got to tell you guys, it's going to be really hard to get to 90 with the way the skill gain is now. I was just doing some herbalism, trying to get skill up so we could get some order on the North American server. And I was getting a 0.2 gain on herbalism until I hit 30. And the minute I hit 30, it dropped to 0.1. And on the construction masonry side, as soon as I got to 40 and 50, it started dropping even further, pretty fast. And then once I hit 60, it was minuscule. So we are not going to have gate modules for quite some time. I would say at least probably a week. All right, so Van Zandt is asking, will personal claims be dropped to protect growing trees? Yes. So one of the things we have to do on the island is to be very careful about how we utilize trees. I had a bunch of rules that I posted up there on the forums, and it's just to make sure that we have everybody on the same page. Once we get some trees growing, we'll be more relaxed about some of that stuff. However, that to protect some of our resources, we are definitely going to have to be dropping personal claims to different spots of the island. The only people going to be able to drop the personal claims, though, is going to be designated people, even if, let me back up. So the way the permissions work, right? Personal claims are allowed within the town claim as well as within the realm claim if you set permissions for people to do so. I have that turned off, and we'll have that turned off. Outside the realm claim, anybody will be able to drop a personal claim. However, if you drop one and you haven't gotten permission, you're going to be asked to remove it, or we'll remove it for you, simply because we cannot have people running down and dropping personal claims all over the place. People outside of Wessex or outside of Hyperion, which is going to happen. We're going to have to be very aggressive about how we protect the island from that kind of stuff. Give me just a second here. My phone's ringing. Okay, Jonathan asks, will high quality food be a main priority since the skill rate is so low? Yes, it is. So I went through and counted the trees that we had and looked at the quality, and Caleb and his rangers done a great job of putting together a list of these trees and the quality and what we can get out of them. So I went through and I took an inventory of what we have in our section of the island there, and have come up with a plan of what we're going to build within the first days. So one of those things is going to be a kitchen, and another will be a warehouse. And because of that, the kitchen will add like 0.20, I think, or 0.2. No, I'm sorry, it adds 20 to the quality of food that you produce. So that's going to be critical for us to go forward. So Van Zan asked, what will be the plan for storage? Will each crafting house be pushing for a warehouse? So the current city design actually has a warehouse for the crafting houses to use. In some cases, it'll be a large warehouse for some of the, let me see. So we have a large warehouse for the duchy itself, right? Where we're going to store the main inventory. We have a duchy that our large warehouse is going to be set up for anybody to use. Then we have smaller warehouses set up for a couple of the crafting houses. For some, like herbalism, chests will do the job for them. But for like the carpentry, the large warehouse is positioned in such a way that it's easy to get to from within the gate, and that way it'll make hauling logs much easier. Hi, Fellerona asks, how do we know those quality will change on beta day, though? So from my experience, from testing the stuff on this island, the quality doesn't really change for anything that's on the surface. So in other words, when the European server first launched, there was a spot where we could find 100 quality soil. I went over there on the launch of the North America server, and I got 100 quality soil from the exact same spot. The granite and marble and slate that was on the surface has all been there. There's a spot where silver was on the surface. That's still been there. So when they shuffle around the resources, they're only shuffling around the stuff that's actually underground. So Lucas asks, if we stumble across non-Wessex players in our kingdom and they are not hostile, do we tell them to leave the kingdom or try to get them to join the kingdom or just KOS? We are going to be posting something on the forums, on the Life is Feudal forums, specifically stating that anybody who comes down onto the island who is not a member of Hyperion will be killed on sight. Just because it takes like 2 minutes to drop a personal claim. So that means that if you are a member of Hyperion, right, or specifically Wessex, then you need to be invited to the group before you head down there. Because if you come down there, you're going to be killed if you're not. I mean, not so much wearing the colors, but if you're not showing up as green. All right, Jonathan asks, it sounds like there's a specific city design in mind. Is that blueprint available for all members to see, or will only Transformer builders be able to see it? It actually is available on the Wessex forums. I think I posted a link in Wintus also. So yeah, it's not a secret. And I can post it again on the forum threads, on our forums in that same thread. All right, so Van Zandt asks, will it be the overriding military structure? Will each shire be independent to a degree? Or will the Lord Constable be the final decider on military action for all the shires? Or will the Bailiff of Lift be the decider? So for the overall military structure, right, we have the Lord Constable, and they are the person who decides things on a military basis for the kingdom, which will primarily be when we are at war. For Wessex itself, it's up to the constable to decide, how we organize ourselves, what training, what patrols, all those kind of things. It's one of those things where, as the bailiff, yes, I could kind of overrule some decisions, but the reality is that if you have people appointed to perform a task, you need to let them do that task. It's the same kind of way that that Manus, I'm sorry, His Majesty, make sure. It's the same way though that Manus has set up the Duchy of Wessex as a whole, right? He's put me in charge of helping to run things for this. He is the final rule on these things, but unless I really do something to step out of line, he's just going to let me run with it. I'm not sure if I answered everything there, Van Zandt. If not, feel free to point that out. Zephyrus asks, with the KOS, will you be able to add names before launch day, i.e. early name claim and guild is already set? I don't know. I might not be able to do that until the early access period. I'm pretty sure early access will be able to set the guild up. It's just not going to be able to drop the monument. You actually build the guild on the website. So I might be able to do that, 3 days beforehand. I'll have to wait and find out. But once the guild is set up on the website, I can add people right from there. And just to let folks know, I'm actually on a business trip and won't be back for the early access period until several hours into it. But I will be in an office at that time. So if they actually open up at 1 p.m. on the 16th, I will be able to create, I'm thinking I'll be able to create the guild right then if I haven't already done so. That would be great. I'm sorry. So Spheris asked, should we make a list of names pre-launch to make life easier for you? Absolutely. Please do so. We have a thread going that has those rules. And I want to make sure that everybody knows. So if you post in there that you've acknowledged it, then when I start inviting folks, I'm going to do it right from there. So Van Zandt asked, you mentioned the admiral position being open. How much of a focus will be placed on Navy? Are we aware of boat capabilities at this stage? So about a year or so ago, Bobic had stated that when open beta started, well, before open, when the game launched, that we would have boats available. Now, that was before we did the open beta thing. So I don't know if he means, obviously we're not going to have him by this on the 17th, but I think it means we should have them when the game officially launches, whatever that means. But we are going to have a Navy. We're going to be an island nation. And so a Navy is going to be massively important. According to also what Bobic had said, they envision the Navy to have things like, ballista bolts being able to throw from the side, catapults, being able to ram boats. Think about, naval combat back before gunpowder was invented, essentially. And then also asks, we have a crafter roster in Gershwin. I think with the Great Ranger roster, we should have our bases covered. I think so too. So I mean, it's not too early to fill the admiral position because we need to start looking at this stuff and planning our tactics. And as we look to, if we decide we want to expand, then we have to look at where we're going to go that route. Primarily, we're going to be focused on being defensive in nature. It's always kind of funny to me how some people get really bent out of shape when they lose to players in combat that they consider to be nothing but role players. I mean, the level of their anger it's just funny to me. So I have no doubt that we're going to have plenty of people coming down and attacking us and trying to take us out of the game. Which is why we're going to be focused defensively. But I mean, at some point of the game, if we decide to move into the desert, or we move into the island of the Northeast, or we go straight west, or whatever we do, we're going to have a navy, and that means we're going to have the tactics that were used back when the navies back in the days, like Greek time and things like that, where you try to ram boats and you send your soldiers over the sides and all that good stuff. It's not really my forte, so that would be something to chat with Caleb and Lewis on, but as well as Brando, because he's a student of military tactics from that time. So the admiral is actually a separate cabinet position. I'm sorry. So Lucas asked, the person, will he be under the garrison? And Lewis, basically, how does that work? And the answer is that the admiral position is a separate cabinet position, just like the Rangers are. So it'll be like the third branch of the military system. So I think I kind of answered it. So Van Zandt asks, is there a plan for expansion beyond the current island? I think I've kind of touched on that a little bit. I mean, I'm sure at some point we will, because we'll have people joining us. As we grow and as more people join the game, they'll be looking to be part of something bigger, and I'm sure that they're going to want to join us. And we're not going to go the route of having somebody halfway across the map join us and be part of the kingdom, right? If they want to join us, they're going to have to be down around near where we're at for self-protection and things. So at some point, yeah, we'll have some kind of expansion, I'm sure. So Lucas, I'm not sure I understand your question. Got you. So Lewis asks, so will he be a warden type, like the leader of the Rangers is a warden? He is. So I mean, the title is admiral. That is the title of the cabinet position. And there's also the royal actually, I don't know what the title name is at the kingdom level. I think it's Lord Admiral. So Sapphirus asks, what do you envision priority timeline of things that need to be accomplished in the first week? So the most important thing is make sure that we have the material to throw up a guild monument as soon as we're able to. And I don't think that's going to really be any problem at all. In fact, I will run a character down there to kind of serve, or Van Zandt can actually, since he's now the treasurer, to kind of store the material on the character. So we have the 40 herbs, the compounds, as well as the 100 bones and things like that. So that when it's time to throw that thing up, that's the first thing that we do. After that's done, things kind of split up along the lines of skills, right? So Sapphirus, as the blacksmith master, you're going to have to focus on just gaining your skill up in smelting and making weapons and things, because we have to get some metal weapons on us as soon as we can. The garrison will be focused on keeping other people off the island. I mean, I can imagine between them and the Rangers, that's going to be a full-time job the first week or so. We're going to need someone who's going to be focusing on herbalism to get us mortar, right? We need flux so we can make mortar. So that'll be a separate priority branch that we'll have to have somebody focused on. We have to have somebody focus on the cooking, so that they can make sure that they've got, producing some high quality food for us so that we can gain skill faster. And then of course we have the whole construction side of things where we have to get, I have to get my skill up for the construction so I can lay down the city plans as well as get everything terraformed. And Zan asks, is there a plan to fill the gaps of house masters that are still needed, or will those voids be filled by the chamberlain until someone steps up? So there is plans to fill out the rest of those. It really comes down to people who are going to be dedicated to getting things done and who want to be a leader in those areas. I know we've had some folks express some interest there. I'm happy to have them do it. I'm not even worried at this point about passing the Yoma's exam, which I'd like for folks to do. So I think what we're going to end up doing is having people step in, take the ownership of those crafting houses, get them going, and then we'll come back to the yeoman exam after that's been done. Grimgore asks, I thought someone was recording. I'm at work. We definitely are recording. So Grimgore asks about the short-term housing plan for garrison non-crafters. So we have enough logs to get, oh, hold on a second, His Majesty just pinged me. All right, sorry about that. So we have enough building logs to probably get up around 20 huts. So we are going to, that's going to be set aside, one for myself, one for Cypherius for the blacksmithing piece. We might do one or two others depending upon the need. Like, we don't want to have our cook who's going to be focusing on skill grind to have to make that, waste any time having to run to the base. But the rest of the huts we throw up are all going to be for the garrison to make sure that if they die, they respawn right there on the island and can engage in defense. For crafters, we want to send them down to Oak Island, which is straight south from the newbie city. It's got lots of oak trees there, and so we want to give them an opportunity to set up a hut so they don't have as far to run if they die for some reason. But also we want to use those oaks and deny them for use by other people. So Lucas asks, will we see the Church of Soldeus in Life is Feudal? I hope so. We have to have somebody step in and take that on, though. I don't know if Varric is going to be coming back or not. I know we have a sister. I'm gonna butcher her name, named Kateline, who was happy to start doing that kind of stuff also. So I hope we do. If nothing else, we do have SSR who is doing, they have Bishop Azrath who is doing their kind of interpretation of our religion. So Jonathan asks, what can we do right now to prepare for the MMO open beta? What can we do for the next 2 weeks? We'll be able to practice working together for the crafting houses and train drill for those in the garrison. So that's an excellent question. So right now the open beta is in North America. I'm sorry, the closed beta in North America. So if you have access, you can log on and kind of see what the world looks like right now. Otherwise, we do have a YO server up. There are links on the forums, but it's called Life is Roleplay. And the password is Hypertron, all lowercase. That'll get you into the game. We use that as a training server. So there's all kinds of garrison schedules that are posted. I don't have that link handy. I think, Van Zandt, if you've got that link, can you post it in this channel? So that you can see when people are training together and fighting. I know Lewis and Van Zandt and Waldo and some of our other sergeants have been working really hard on training and working together as a group. We've got a lot of videos out there that they've made. Some of them we don't want to post just because we don't want to, broadcast our tactics and things. But we've had a lot of success from the garrison on when they'll go onto a server and start playing on a PvP servers, they usually have everybody against them, and they still prevail. So I would recommend jumping onto the YO server, playing around with the skills, see what you get the best skill gain at. I've gone through the YO server so many times now, I just can't stomach logging on there and grinding. But then I've been doing it on the MMO piece, just kind of fine tuning my testing. So it kind of really depends what you want to do for your crafting position. And I don't remember if Jonathan, I thought you liked doing the farming. Is that right? Because was that back on that one server that we were sitting on? All right, so yeah, so we actually need somebody to organize the farmers. So if that's something you're interested in pursuing, then awesome. I'll also say that the crafting tree branches have changed a lot, as have the garrison, the military side of the house. So you want to go in and spend some time learning that. So Grimgor asks, what is our current timeline for base competition? Will there be roads connecting the shires, and so who's building them and planning them? So I kind of, in the North America MMO, I kind of laid out where the road's going to go. Essentially, it goes from the little bay that we have in our shire up into the base. And so I've talked to the folks there. I don't really care who builds it. It's got to come after we get the terraforming done. And actually, let me kind of back up here, talk about the island structure a little bit more too. So right now we have 4 shires in the Kingdom of Hyperion, plus the Kingdom of Hyperion, which will be its own shire. So 5 altogether on the island. Because of this, we're going to have hundreds of people running around that island, and which is part of where the rules came from, as far as not being able to go to any of the different shires and harvest material that's there. So if there's something that they have that we don't have, you just have to ask about it, and I can follow up. Getting it won't be a problem, but we want to make sure that we have everybody kind of staying from their own shire area. So we're still in the same area, kind of in the northwestern section of the island. Silverstone Republic is to the southeastern side or southwestern side. Deephold of the Khans are to the northeast. Military Gamers is at the far south, and then on the far eastern side is the Kingdom of Hyperion. We actually have a map somewhere. I think it might be in the garrison where we can post this stuff. This is not a secure channel, actually, Van Zen. We'll post it in the Winter's Castrum, though, which is a little bit more secure for members only. And so back to Grimoire's question. So if we're going to have roads connecting the shires, we will, because we like to RP in that kind of area. We'll probably be building them up to the edge of the shire line. So we'll have to have some coordination as we do that kind of stuff. Oh, completion. Okay, yeah. Sorry, I didn't see it until just now. Wolf asked, do we have a solution for the large amount of water we are to look over? Do you mean crossing it? All right, both. Okay, so as Lucas said, watchtowers, we'll be setting up some watchtowers, if that's what Lewis wants to do, right? I mean, again, this is stuff that really falls underneath his area, so how he wants to set this stuff up is up to him. As far as crossing, they have added swimming into the game. It's kind of slow to skill up. You do get agility for it, though, which is kind of nice. I'm not sure what that gets you. If you go under the water, there's now a breath bar, that will have to run out before you lose stamina, so that helps a little bit. I don't remember swimming being as deadly as it was before, so for the most part, until we get boats in the game, we'll have to swim it. Cypherius asks, can the resource locations change? Example, if one shire has 2 silver mines and no gold, and another shire has 2 gold and no silver, can these areas be traded as in one gets a silver mine and the other gets a gold mine? It could be. That would be something that we'd work out in the, well, actually, I'm not sure if that would be the House of Commons or the House of Lords, but that is a possibility. The other possibility is that we just trade one for one. I mean, the resource, those, like I said, the underground resources do shuffle. The very first time I came out there, I found, this was like wave 0 of closed beta testing. I found a bunch of gold mines that weren't that far apart, but it was clear that they were different gold mines. The next time through, they were not there. Like when the European server launched for wave 1, they weren't there anymore. But there was a gold mine that was under our base. And I think there was a high quality gold and silver mine back where Cons had set up. This time on the North American server, none of that is there. So, whatever we don't have, we will trade for in worst case scenario. Van Zan asks, you mentioned the Chamberlain position still be open as you're the Chancellor. Much of the build plan for the inner city is set in stone. What will be the plan for the city beyond the central city? Will the new Chamberlain under your tutelage be able to plan the expansion of the city beyond the keep? Yeah, absolutely. That's traditionally that's the role of the Chamberlain, is to do all the planning. So once that's all done, then that will be one of the tasks they can take on. Van Zandt asks, also, will the constable have some sway in the final decision of the outermost walls once they come, as they will be our main defense? So he has already, actually, but yes. So the plan is just based on the way the siege mechanics are supposed to work. It's at the town claim, and then you have 15 tile radius outside of the town claim. And that's from that point, we'll set up kind of another outer series of walls so that we'll have the inner city wall around the town claim, and then the 15 tile radius will have another wall. And after that, it will be sloped down. So I know one of the things that Lewis had talked about was building stone walls there versus the castle walls, as it would be allow you to shoot down over top of them, which I thought was a great idea. So after that, absolutely. And like I said, he has already to some extent. Anybody have any other questions? So I'm just gonna say that's the thread to watch. Patrick has some garrison questions. So I think Lewis is working. Otherwise, he would be here. He will be on for the training tonight, I believe. If you check the schedule that Van Zandt posted, there is some training going on tonight. But if not, then certainly just ask him. So Van Zandt asked, you once mentioned a college of archery that could be used by garrison bowmen, ranger bowmen, or hunter bowmen. Will that still be a possibility? I think you mean building some practice ranges up for people to become good at it. Absolutely. We absolutely want to be able to do that. We want to be able to rain fire down on people from within the town and the inner wall of the claim. but also just being able to learn how to shoot and how to work with groups is going to be incredibly important. Cypherius asks, what are the rules for resources off the island but still in the zones of control? Those are open game. The zones of control that His Grace Brando had put up were about being able to protect Hyperion citizens who are in that area. But you can go in there and you can go across to harvest anything that's within the offside the island. There's no protected area for that. Okay. So Van Zandt clarified. He said more along the lines of a society of archers, just people who love the bow enthusiasts, to have a place to get together and teach other tricks and tips. I think that's a great idea. I know in the past there have been knight societies who were, you know, a group of people who just kind of practice techniques and things like that. I think having one for bowmen would be a fantastic idea. So if you want to kind of lead that, as far as I'm concerned, you're good to go. I mean, we'll even set up an area on the forums for you to participate in. So the other thing, so also on the forums, I tried to set up an area for the different house artisans, the crafting houses, so they could have their own areas. I'm still kind of struggling with how to get that set up. I know one way is to set up an actual classification of or grouping within the forums, but there have been some bugs before where you do that, it actually ends up giving people access to everything. So I might end up just doing like a separate forum on the Wessex side. I need to follow up and look into that more, but yeah, we'll do the same thing for the college. So Wolf asks, same thing for hand-to-hand fighters. Yeah, so the idea has always been behind the societies is that they're supposed to be somewhat exclusionary. So I would think hand-to-hand fighters, you know, if there was like a group of pikemen, so to speak, then that would kind of make sense. You know, just kind of like back in England, right? There were the beef eaters, and they were all the ones that were in charge of protecting like the Tower of London, I believe it was. So we can certainly do that stuff too. And in fact, I just realized I think I know where that set that stuff up as. I should have something posted today about that. All right, there it is. So yeah, actually, I can tell you right now. So in the forums, underneath the community tab is a section called groups. And I'm looking here right now, and I see a lot of old groups that were sitting there. There's the Crusaders, the Inner Circle, the Nicotine Appreciation Club, the Draconic Elites, the Society of the Secret Endeavors. So yeah, so we can set up clubs, right, or groups right inside there for you to be able to kind of communicate and have your own thing. And in fact, I'll probably move the crafting houses over there too. Oh, here's a group. People who loves to hate elves. That's my kind of group. So I think I need to go in here and clean this up. I'm not sure what the permissions are for folks to set them up on their own. No, I did not know Vega is another word for elf. Oh, looks like we have a fight breaking out in the channel. My money's on Van Zandt. Wolf asks a question. Can I bring my WAIFU? I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm going to say if you do, make it a private group and keep it private. All right, so Grimgore has a question. Will the quartermasters be able to request mats, armor tools, etc.? If so, will that be to the head quartermaster or will that need to be run by a cabinet member? Also, if it's yeoman, will that position have the power to require horse masters to make certain items or house masters to make certain items? What are the consequences for failing to fulfill a quest and who decides priorities of work? So the way I envision the house crafting system to work is that the Cypherus, as an example, as a house crafter, would be responsible for maintaining a certain level of inventory in the duchy warehouse, right? So there might be a requirement that there be 100 swords in there, right? Or 50 suits of plate armor. And it's his job to fill that in. Then as the quartermaster, say for the garrison, would then go to those stores and pull what they need for their own inventory levels. And if there's any disputes about it, right? I mean, so if it goes, it's part of the responsibilities of the house master is to set the priorities. And then if you feel that your priority is not being taken seriously enough, then you would go to the chamberlain and request that it be made a higher level priority. And since the chamberlain post is going to be vacant, it means you would go to either Lewis or Caleb or Van Zandt or myself. And at one point, I tried to start setting up some inventory levels. I was doing so in a spreadsheet. I don't know if we're still going to go that route or not. It really kind of depends on how the house masters want to organize themselves. And I guess Van Zandt, you and I will have to get together and figure out how we want to maintain those levels of inventory so we have a proper chamberlain. And whether we want to do that through taxation or how we're going to do that.
Yeah, it's something I'm brainstorming about.
So Zephyrus asks, without the ability, oh, I'm sorry, he was actually making a statement. Yes, and that is absolutely correct, right? Without the ability to lock containers or give restrictions on buildings. So I'm sorry, I should have read it before I start talking. Without the ability to lock containers or give restrictions on buildings, how will inventory be handled? So one of the things that we're looking at is whether or not we can just drop a personal claim within the town itself. There's two primary crafting stations, or three actually, where this is going to be a problem that I can see, right? One is going to be smithing, one will be the carpentry, and one will be the cooking. I have to go back through and take a look and see if there's actually room to drop a personal claim there. I mean, if you look at the city design, when we get that posted, you'll see that all the crafting sits on one side of the city. And that was intentional because the way the city's going to lay out, where the houses are going to go, will provide a screen for the one spot where it's elevated, people can shoot down to the city. So having the housing there actually serves as a screen for that. But it really comes down to if we have room to do the personal claims. It's going to be really tough making sure that people just stay out of things. I know in the European MMO closed beta test, we had people going in there and mixing up materials, and mixing high quality stuff with low quality stuff. grabbing things that they needed, not doing any type of an inventory check. So this is part of where, if we have the common stores available for anybody to come and grab and store things in, one of those large warehouses, then if they need a shovel for something, they would go in there and get a shovel. And then out of the duchy inventories, we would restock the other large warehouse as we needed. And then the smiths would then keep the main duchy warehouse stocked, along those lines. So Lucas actually posted a comment: if people steal, they'll become training dummies on the archery range. That might be one of the things that we end up doing if it becomes a problem. So one of the unique things about Life is Feudal is that there is no central banking system. So in effect, you can only steal what you carry. Now we do have the ability to set up a trading post where you can sell some things for currency. And because we don't want people just going and grabbing resources and then selling them to enrich themselves, access to that trading post will probably be controlled by a personal claim. And then, as far as personal storage and individual member wealth, a lot of that's still kind of being worked out. But we do have a rough plan, I can say, that will allow people to do things and actually earn coin for themselves and then to store that in a secure way as possible. So then Wolf asks, how's personal inventory going to be handled? Like, say I kill a guy and take a sword from him and a nice ring that I like. Do these things go to the garrison, or do I keep for myself and store it or sell it? So if you're on garrison duty, and that happens, then it would go to the garrison, right? Now, if Lewis wants to award that personally to somebody, or to let people loot as they're fighting, that's really going to be up to Lewis how he wants to handle that. Traditionally, though, I will say that when you are on duty doing things, then the stuff that you get goes back to Wessex, right? So if you loot a bunch of arms and armor, it goes back to Wessex to be used by the garrison members. Now that's a little bit different than personal inventory, though. So for personal inventory, once we start setting up the burrows and once we start allowing people to go out and set up their own little house and hut and stuff, then you'll be able to pick those kind of things with a personal claim. But all that has to come after we get the city itself built. Oh, Van Zandt, please go ahead.
Well, you kind of touched on it, but I mean, my initial thought would be, we're all contributing to one another, right? So the taxes that the farmers pay, etc., that'll all go to the royal bank. That'll be used to give arms and armor to the garrison. And when we go out and we bring stuff back, that'll also be something that I would consider would go to the central pot and be divvied out just like anything else. A portion to that would go to the crown, etc. I would think, but that's also not set in stone.
Right. I mean, really, the only thing that's really going to be coveted, I would think, is the stuff that's made out of the rare resources you get, the named resources. Like you have a heavy suit of plate. That's something that people are going to want to covet. And I really don't know what we would do with that because, there's arguments multiple ways. You should give it to your best fighter. Maybe that should go to Lewis. Maybe that should go to His Majesty. I really don't know.
Well, I can tell you what the house perspective would be. I mean, it's kind of different with the garrison, but if you're looking at it from like a vassal knight position, the people of his house, his bondsmen, should they get something, obviously you would want the knight to have the best equipment. So I would think it would go up.
Yeah, I think that's a good answer. Not sure that went through there. Apple was telling me it wanted to install some things, so. Yeah. And Zephyrus is a really good point, right? That we're going to have better than anything you're going to loot. Zephyrus is a super awesome dedicated smith, so I fully support that statement. I can promise you, though, that if you're in the middle of a fight and you start looting some bodies, I'm sure the sergeants and or Lewis is going to kill you on the spot.
Well, it'll depend. You definitely don't want to loot unless ordered to loot.
I'll add that back when in Eve, when I was helping to run different fights as the commander, I have shot at people who were looting out of turn when there was still a fight going on and they went to go loot stuff. So whatever Lewis decides, it's got my full support. All right, does anybody have any other questions? All right, everybody. Thank you for joining and asking the questions. We'll get this saved off and a link for the recording posted. And I'll be spending the day working on either herbalism for the North American Guild, just so we can get a couple more buildings up, and or some of the stuff we talked about earlier. So I'm looking at the groups right now, whether any need to be trimmed out of there or not. Anyhow, again, thanks, and we'll probably do another one a week from now, since that'll just be before launch. All right, bye, everyone.
What's up?
Well, that was interesting.